Every year, factories throw away tons of moldy bread as waste. Watch it become something completely different. An excavator moves a mountain of dried, moldy bread onto the intake conveyor belt. A closer look reveals the green mold covering almost every piece of crusty bread. A worker manually pulls loose plastic packaging off the bread before it moves further down the line. A robotic arm scans the line, picking out any remaining packaging fragments. A magnetic separator passes over the moving waste, pulling out stray metal fragments. The loaded conveyor carries a thick layer of bread through the intake tunnel. A technician inspects a fresh tray of bread waste, logging it against a checklist. A digital dashboard tracks the total weight of food waste processed so far today. The bread enters a massive 3-story grinding machine built to break it down completely. Inside the mill, spinning teeth crush the dry bread into coarse fragments. Coarse ground bread powder streams out of the mill into a collection hopper. The powder is refined further, falling in a steady stream into a clean container. A vibrating sieve filters the powder, removing anything too coarse to continue. A worker checks the sieve's mesh screen to make sure nothing is blocking the flow. A digital scale confirms the exact weight of powder collected in each batch. The filled drum of bread powder is wheeled toward the mixing room. The powder is poured into a large mixing vessel along with purified water. An internal paddle begins blending the powder and water into a smooth slurry. A technician injects a measured enzyme solution to start breaking down the starch. Inside the tank, the liquid slowly shifts from opaque brown to translucent amber. A control panel tracks temperature, pH, and pressure throughout the reaction. Pipes carry the liquid through the system as condensation builds on the cold metal. A pressure valve releases built-up steam with a sharp burst. A technician checks the tank's viewing port as the liquid churns inside. The liquid moves into a hall of towering stainless steel fermentation tanks. These tanks rise high above the factory floor, built for large-scale fermentation. Inside, thousands of tiny bubbles rise steadily to the surface of the liquid. A layer of foam builds on top as fermentation continues. A sample is drawn from a chrome valve to check on the process. Ventilation fans keep the fermentation hall at a stable, controlled temperature. A technician logs fermentation data on a tablet between the towering tanks. The liquid level drops as the fermented batch is pumped toward distillation. It enters a row of tall distillation columns where the liquid begins to boil. Clear liquid drips steadily from the column's spout into a collection funnel. Inside the column, liquid flows over a series of internal plates. Sensor tracks the alcohol content and temperature as distillation continues. An operator checks the pressure gauge to confirm the system is running steady. The distilled liquid passes through a bank of filtration membranes. A UV sterilization unit adds one more layer of purification to the line. A single drop of clear spirit falls into the collection vessel below. The finished distillate flows into a holding tank, ready for the next stage. In the lab, a technician draws a sample for a final quality check. A handheld sensor confirms the alcohol content matches the target specification. The approved spirit moves into a cellar lined with rows of oak barrels. A forklift lifts each barrel onto a high storage rack in the cellar. Spirit is poured through a funnel into the open bunghole of each barrel. A worker tightens the metal bands around the barrel by hand. A technician checks the humidity and temperature gauge along the barrel racks. Periodically, a small sample is drawn from a barrel to check its progress. The technician holds the sample to the light to check its clarity and color. Once ready, the barrels are moved out of the cellar toward the bottling room. Before bottling, the spirit passes through a blending line to reach the exact bottling strength. Empty glass bottles move along a bright conveyor belt toward the filling station. A filling nozzle dispenses the finished spirit into each bottle. A robotic arm applies a label to the front of every bottle. A cork is pressed firmly into the neck of each bottle. A wax sealing head applies molten wax over the cork for a tight seal. Each bottle passes under a camera for a final inspection. Any bottle with a misaligned label is automatically pulled off the line. A laser etches a batch code onto the base of every approved bottle. Finished bottles are packed by hand into shipping boxes. A taping machine seals each box as it moves along the line. Sealed boxes roll toward the palletizing area. A robotic arm stacks each box precisely onto a growing pallet. Layer by layer, the pallet continues to build. A shrink wrap machine seals the entire pallet in plastic film. A brief burst of heat locks the wrap tightly in place. A forklift lifts the finished pallet, ready for shipping. The forklift carries it down the aisle toward the loading dock. A dock worker scans the barcode to confirm the shipment details. The pallet is loaded into the back of a waiting delivery truck. The truck's rear door rolls shut, sealing in the final shipment. The truck pulls away from the dock as the afternoon light begins to fade. As night falls, the facility's lights switch on one by one, marking the end of another day's process.